What's going on, guys? BriarRabbit here, and this is Weekend Update, the show where I talk about what's going on in my life, gaming and otherwise. So the game you're seeing right now is this guy, inFAMOUS Second Son, and I got the limited edition. I was actually pretty happy about that. It comes with a little bonus content, like a vest, like a couple of character outfits, I think, and a couple of levels that I think aren't in the regular version of the game. I like this game so far. Obviously, as you can tell from the video, I'm very early in the game. I'm still really earning new abilities, but I do like how the game gets you right into the story. It gets you really familiar with your character, and it also starts giving you power-ups really quickly. So you get just enough time to kind of get comfortable with the power-ups you've been given, and then you're already given another one. And I like that. I feel already, within the first hour of gameplay, I feel very strong and very able to kind of roam around the city, jump up onto the tall buildings, come down and fight, and I don't know, I'm having a great time with the game. Game's a little more difficult than I expected. I enjoy that, though. I've played a couple of games that are a little bit easier than I'd like to. They don't hold your attention when they're too easy, right? You feel like you're just kind of walking right through it and just like waiting for the story beats. But with inFAMOUS Second Son, I'm having a good time with the gameplay. I find there is a little bit of strategy to the combat and to navigating the city. I'm not a huge fan of the main character yet. I do like the story so far, but the main character, he seems a little bit childish. I do like one thing about him, and that is that he was given a bunch of like superhero powers, and he's excited about it. I'm so sick of these like Batman type things or Spider-Man type things where the guy gets like all these awesome superpowers, but he's like all depressed about it because he's not like everybody else. Man, if somebody gave me superpowers, you're damn right I'd be happy about it, and I do like that about this character. Other than that, I'm not a huge fan, but hopefully I'll come around as the game progresses and as the character matures in the game. So that's the game you're watching here. I do have a couple other topics I wanted to talk about today. A commenter asked me this week why I don't like PCs, and I wanted to clarify that a little bit. I actually do like PCs. I like the act of building PCs and kind of speccing components together. It's a hobby though, right? And I don't have that kind of time for that particular hobby anymore in my life. I was a fan of it back in the earlier days, but it's just one of those things. When I sit down to game, I just want to game. I don't want to worry about drivers and is this piece of memory acting up? All that stuff I kind of just left in the past, and I'm not really a fan of going back. What I really hate about PC gaming, though, is Windows. Now, I think Windows is a solid operating system for 90% of the users out there, mostly people at work. I think it's really easy to deploy to multiple users in a corporate environment. And I actually have to support it for my job. But when I come home, it is absolutely the last thing I want to deal with. I do not want to deal with, driver issues or why isn't this printing or, any of that stuff. I certainly don't want to start doing registry hacks. I don't want to deal with Windows rot. I don't want to deal with, once a year or once every 6 months total reimages of my home computer because Windows is just slowing down. That is the shit that I just don't want to deal with at home. So I use a Mac at home. And the reason I use a Mac at home is because the damn thing's rock solid, right? I leave my computer on for months at a time. I don't have to reboot it. That's not something I can say about just about any Windows machine I've ever had. Windows XP was very much better about this. Windows 7, I think, is a great operating system, although it still has that goddamn registry in it, which I can't stand. I really wish that Microsoft would just eliminate the registry. I know that would be cutting off a lot of legacy software support, but I think that registry is really weighing them down. Windows 8, on the other hand, I think is just a mess, a complete mess. The fact that there's two competing operating systems there, there's like the Metro style touch interface, and then there's the old school desktop. It's confusing, and I deal with computers all day, every day, and I get confused by Windows 8. I do not understand Windows 8. I don't want to have a touchscreen on a desktop because the monitor is out of my reach. I don't really want to have a touchscreen on my laptop either. It's fine for a phone. It's fine for a tablet. But when I'm really using a computer, I'm using a mouse and keyboard because that's the way I use a computer to get productivity done. I'm either typing or I'm mousing, and a mouse is far more precise than my finger. So Windows 8, I just want to avoid it at all costs. Now, there's been developments in the Windows peripheral business that has been kind of bringing me back to the fold, namely Oculus Rift. If Oculus Rift turns out to be as awesome as it looks, then yeah, I'm going to end up buying a PC because I'm going to want to be able to enjoy that experience. But right now, as it stands, the building of a PC, I do get some enjoyment out of that, but Windows really keeps me away. I think Windows is a hot mess right now. I do see that there are better graphics on the PC right now, but you got to pay $2,000 for a PC to get them. So, there's weights and balances with PC gaming versus console gaming. For me, it's just easier. Console gaming, I sit down, I play the game, and I'm done. I don't have to worry about the PC experience. And for some people who have more time than me, that is part of the charm. But for me, it's not for me right now. So the next thing I want to talk about is Headset Palooza. So over the last 2 weeks, I've reviewed a ton of headsets. I've reviewed the Turtle Beach XO4s, the XO7s, the Titanfall Atlas version of the XO4 that is also compatible with your PC and your Xbox 360. And my surprise hit, I think, is the Microsoft Stereo headset, which I think is surprisingly good, and it's the cheapest one. And to be honest with you, if I was going to recommend any of these headsets to anybody and I didn't know their financial situation or any of that stuff, I find that the Microsoft Stereo headset is the one that I could almost recommend to anybody because, it sounds good, it's cheap, it's comfortable. What else can you want out of a stereo headset? Now, it doesn't have surround sound, and that is a big step up in price. I think the lowest you can really get in price for that is around $160, which the XO7 and the Titanfall Atlas XO4s really flirt with. So there are some more headsets that I'd like to check out. The Polk Audio has proven to be more difficult than I'd like for me to actually get. I am planning on reviewing those very shortly. But unfortunately, I placed an order and the order got canceled on me, and I placed another order and it said it was in stock, but it didn't ship. I wondered why, and it was out of stock. So weird things like that. I can go and get them at GameStop right now, and that might be what I have to do to review that headset. I would like to see some surround sound headsets, though. Most of the headsets that just dropped are all for the Xbox One. They all use that Xbox audio adapter that plugs into the controller, and that only outputs sound. I think to get surround sound, you're really going to have to go with an Astro or a Titan, something that has a mix amp that you can plug an optical audio into. And that's really the next step up, and I think it's worth it. Now, it's a lot more money to get it, but stereo is great, right? But surround sound, it's just that much better, especially when you're playing shooters, and it really gives you a competitive advantage. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was asking me, you do the show, you do the First Run show where you review movies, and you also do the YouTube channel where you talk about video games. Don't you find that the video game stuff is a little childish? Don't you feel like you've grown up past the point of video games? And I've heard that before, and I never really put much thought into it. To me, movies are good, but they're not as good as video games. Like, the best video game has a way of really sucking you in, like the story, the interactivity, the tension that you feel because you're actually controlling the character. It has a way of sucking you in that a movie can't really compete with. A movie is much more a piece of art that you watch. It's a painting that you see on the wall. You never interact with that painting other than what you think about it. The painting, once you get the painting, though, it is painted. It's not going to change. It might fade if you leave it in the sun, but that's how I feel about movies, too. Is you watch that movie, you consume that movie, and it's everybody around you watches the exact same thing. A video game is completely different. It is an interactive thing, right? The way I play let's say, Infamous Second Son. The way I play Infamous Second Son might be completely different than the way, let's say, COD Made Player plays it, or 9 to 5 Gamers plays it. So they might have one experience with this game while I'm having a completely different experience. And then we'll go and we'll talk about it on the Beastly Thoughts show. And we'll be talking about, well, I saw this happen while I was climbing up this building. And he's like, oh, I didn't even see that, but you should have seen this. And, you know, it's a completely different experience, right? You still get the story, although I think the story in video games still has a long way to go when you compare it to movies. Really, I think Last of Us, maybe BioShock, very few games kind of hit the rarefied air of a movie-style experience. But the interactivity brings so much more to the table. I feel like I was part of that story. I feel like I was a real, well, like part of the story, like I just said. And sure, I understand that video games back in the 80s were just for kids, but I think they've progressed to a real adult form of entertainment. And I don't mean porn. I mean, like, adults can enjoy this form of entertainment. And I really enjoy that about video games. I enjoy that there's more mature topics brought up in Tomb Raider and in Infamous Second Son and in The Last of Us. And I like that. I'm having a ball with it. And I feel almost bad for somebody who just totally dismisses video games as a form of entertainment. If you read a book, I understand that book is fantastic and it's a piece of literature, but you just read it. You didn't interact with it. You didn't have anything to do with that. You just are a passive consumer of that content. With video games, you're an active consumer, and I think that's a big difference. So I think that's going to wrap this one up. Tell me what you guys think about video games versus movies versus books and how they all kind of mesh as different kinds of entertainment. I think that one's going to wrap it up, though, like I just said. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that like button if you like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.